Jason, who's in our group, just a great guy. He's got a great family, great father, great husband. I've always admired Jason. Known him for a few years. He had a situation that happens once in a while, and you need to know how to handle it. And that is eBay says you underpaid shipping. And eBay isn't the one telling you this. It's really the post office or FedEx or UPS. They inform eBay because eBay was the label generator. eBay's the one that supplied this postage to you. And they tell eBay, we're charging you extra because this package weighs more than you said, or it's larger. The dimensions cause it to be oversized and cost a lot more. eBay will just pass the savings on to you. eBay gets charged extra $11. They're going to charge you that $11. They have to assume it's your fault. And that's okay. I know I'm an eBay apologist, but it's okay. eBay's got to just let you handle it. eBay doesn't know what your package weighs or anything. They just took your word for it. But UPS, FedEx, and the post office, they know what your package weighed, and they have ways of finding out for sure. So what I want you to do, anytime you get a notice that says you were overcharged for shipping, I want you to do the following that I'm going to show you here in just a minute. Stay with me till the end. You'll see exactly how to respond to get your money back. Always, 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 yes, there might be an exception someday, sometime, but always, 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 it's not your fault. It was an error of, say, the post office. And you might think, well, for $2, I don't want to mess with it. Well, you should, because it means just a click of a button usually, and you file a challenge, and that's it. Then in a day or two or 5 or 10 or however long it takes, well, we're talking about the government here. If it's the post office, in months or years, they'll finally get to it, and they will, I have found, be honest with their results. The results are almost always in your favor. In my case, it's always been in my favor over the quarter century I've been reselling. So I'm really glad that Jason asked me about this. And here's the message he got from eBay. I remembered a video I did a couple of years ago that I am putting right after this intro message, showing you Jason's email that explains exactly what you do. It's very easy to respond to these, but you need to know why it's happening. This is important because only with an understanding why are you going to actually challenge these, because otherwise you're going to think, I'll never win. Who wins against the government anytime you fight them? Well, nobody. I mean, especially if you're a hardworking tax-paying citizen, absolutely nobody, except in this one case. In this one case, if you do what I say and if you understand why it's happening, you will see it is worth challenging this, and I will probably win. I'm glad Jason asked the question. I want you to ask any question. Just comment below any question you have, any comments, any reproof, any correction. It doesn't have to be about this video. You can comment in any of my videos. You can ask questions in any video about any topic. It doesn't have to be about the video, and I will respond. I'm really glad you're here. I'm really glad you're watching. This is what you do to get your money back from the government. The more you list, the more you sell. The more you sell, the more you ship. The more you ship, the more often you will be overcharged for shipping. This is a phenomena that happens to us once in a while. If you check your fees on eBay, once in a while you are charged extra for shipping, and it's going to be a surprise. Pirate Ship will let you know. Pirate Ship certainly has its place, and I've recommended it before for certain situations. I got an email recently from Pirate Ship that said the post office said you underpaid, it weighed more than you said it did, or that it was larger than you said it did, and they charged me like $22 extra. It simply was not true. They charged me a heavy priority rate. I've seen this on eBay as well. What happens, well, two things can happen. If you're off a little bit on the weight, if it's actually a pound over, if you find an extra shipping fee and you're told you didn't pay enough, it weighed more than you said it did, or the box was larger than you said. If they charge you just a little bit extra, and by a little bit, it's all relative. It might be $6 more, but it's relative to maybe a $20 package rate that you paid for a heavy item. And it said you were off on your inches or your pound. And you could have been, because if you don't measure perfectly, sometimes those machines will pick up a little bulge in your package. And technically that bulge might put you to the next inch, even though if it's a 12 by 12 by 12 box, that little bulge that you didn't really push hard enough, you put too much dunnage on that point or something, that little bulge could put you up to 13 on one side. That might be enough. I don't think it is enough on a 12 by 12 by 12 to push you over an oversized limit, 12 by 12 by 13, but that sort of thing can happen. So once in a while we make mistakes, and if you're close, just be careful, okay? If you're unsure, go to the next inch. If it's really close, here's what I mean by really close. Sometimes I'll put a box on the scale and it says 3.0 pounds. I'll then take it off the scales, do the tar button on the scales, put it back, 3.0 pounds. I don't like that. I don't trust that. What I will do is enter, even though it costs me more money, I will enter 3 pounds 1 ounce. If it's 1 ounce under, I will simply move it up to the next 0.0. But if anything ever weighs 0.0 for me on a pound, exactly at a pound scale, 2.0 pounds, I will go ahead and charge myself more than maybe I have to and do 2.1 because scales aren't perfect. It could be 2.099999. It could be really close to 2.1. And the postal scales or FedEx or UPS scales might be slightly more accurate and they will weigh our package at the higher rate. Speaking of FedEx, FedEx is really dangerous. I'm never close on FedEx. I always make sure I've got plenty of inches and poundage on my packages that I ship FedEx, because what FedEx does, their rate, as with UPS and the post office, very good rates with eBay. But if you go over either size or pounds and it puts you up to the next cost, then what FedEx will do is they will charge you the full price difference between that extra cost and what you paid. So if it's a 7-pound package and you paid for 6 pounds 15 ounces and you didn't put 7 when you weighed because your scale said 6 pounds 15 ounces, but FedEx determines that's a 7-pound box. If that puts you over to another amount charged, then FedEx will take the full retail rate of a 7-pound box in your size and subtract what you paid for eBay's discounted 6-pound 15-ounce rate, and FedEx will charge you the full retail difference between those two. So you really don't want to make a mistake with FedEx. They'll really punish you for that. So anytime that you're close, go over. But there's actually good news in all of this. Sometimes you're way off and you go, there's no way. And what do? You get the IRS all the time sends letters to people saying you owe $47, and people almost always pay it because what are we going to do? I can't figure this out. I'm not going to pay a tax accountant $50 to figure out if this $47 fee is. They know that people will just pay those, okay? They know that we work in gray areas, and they do too, and they'll gray area people nickel and dime them over and over and over. It's kind of like that with the post office and with UPS, but generally the post office is where this really happens. And that is, you will ship something that's 3 pounds and you get a charge for 5 pounds. And you go, wow, I couldn't have been off. I shipped this heavy winter coat and it wouldn't be 5 pounds, it was 3 pounds or something like that. You know you're not off as far as they say. I recently got a pirate ship that said I was off like $22 on my shipping. I said, there's no way. So it said, we paid the postal service what they said you owed, and if you want to challenge it, here's the link. Well, I challenged it, and they don't really ask for any proof. They just tell you you can challenge it. I'm not talking about where you probably mismeasured or you're probably off by enough ounces to have put you over. I'm talking about a real added cost. Anytime that happens, always challenge it, and you almost will always win. This is the way I understand it. This is a big sorting bin for packages. Notice there should be one package per little section here. And what happens, at some point along this way, they have scanners that will weigh what is in there and will measure what is in there with laser scanners. Once in a while, a second package gets dropped onto those scales. Once in a while, there will be 2 in here. I will say, even though it's the government post office, it's pretty amazing this doesn't happen more often, really. I mean, it happens too often, but as many millions of packages or trillions of packages every decade, every 10 years, the number of packages they get right, it's pretty astounding, especially for the government. But once in a while, a second package will drop. Now, which one gets scanned? That's the crapshoot, okay? That's what you don't know. Let's say this yellow package here is yours, and this is a heavy 2-pound package, priority, that accidentally slipped over to this one. And whenever your package was scanned and weighed, it weighed both packages. It hits your barcode, coincidentally, but the whole thing is weighed. So your barcode was overcharged by the total weight. They're going to say that wasn't enough charge. We're going to charge this customer because of that barcode. We're going to charge this customer another 3 pounds for this package here, for this weight. But if this package's barcode was weighed, then they won't really go through and charge you for this. Or I don't know what they do. They don't do anything. But you do owe it. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm worried about when my little package gets charged an extra 3 pounds, or maybe just the package was just kind of overhanging my lip here a little bit, and it happened to be where their barcode was or something. I don't know. But once in a while, 2 packages will appear. Now, the post office supposedly takes a picture every time they do a scan of weight and measurements, and that they do have a way to go back and see if this is what happened anytime there's a challenge. And if you're off by 3 pounds and you know you mailed a little paperback book and you were charged 4 pounds, you know it's this mistake. I mean, it is. Always challenge it. And they will always just let you have the money back. They always will. They know that this happens. It's a problem. How many people challenge it? I would assume very few, just like how many people challenge a $47 charge from the Infernal Revenue Service. Hardly anyone knows what they're talking about. But here the post office will give you your money back. They will. It's their problem. It is a problem with these types of sorting machines, and it's just a cost of them doing business. They realize very rarely one will fall over to where it shouldn't be, or 2 will go through the scan at the same time, but we'll only get one of the barcodes. It happens. And they can go back and look at a picture. I don't even think they do that. I guess they would if they have to, if there's a major cost. I don't know. I don't really think they do. I just think they just give you the money. I mean, they know that this happens. So always challenge every type of charge like this. If it's because you were off by a pound or off by an inch, it's probably your fault. Probably. It could be the package landed on the sorting machine wrongly and they charged you an extra inch, but I wouldn't really fight that stuff because it's almost always our fault. We didn't quite measure exactly right. But on large overcharges, you'll be shocked at how often you win. I think pretty much every time you challenge, pretty much.